Welcome, everyone. Welcome, top coders. Welcome, new guests. Very excited today to talk about building the future of apps with EdgeNet. At Top Coder, we are always excited to bring these types of topics, this type of technology to all of you. The opportunity to go and build on top of EdgeNet. Very excited to reintroduce, because I introduced him at the Top Coder Open this year, but we also reintroduced Dr. Ganesh Sundaram from Alef Edge, who is, founder, CEO of Alef, and, has been doing this for a long time from Bell Labs. And I don't know if there's enough kudos I can say about Dr. Ganesh. So welcome, and I'm very excited to have you talk to our community today and tell us all about EdgeNet and all the great things that you guys are going to be doing with 5G.
Thank you, Adam, for that kind introduction. Thrilled to be back. And, it's always something where when you talk to a community, and especially as exciting as the Top Coder community, you never run out of things to talk about. And it's one of those things where I've been looking forward to this particular event. I was thrilled to be part of the Top Coder Open when it happened in the November timeframe, if I'm not mistaken. But having said that, it's always fresh to be back in front of this community and talk about something exciting. So my thanks to the Top Coder team for making it happen, and the rest of Alef Edge who made it all possible. So the recipe is no different in this presentation, like anything else, but there's something super exciting going on in the internet, which has to do with the fact that we are going through what I consider the third layer of disruption. First was the desktop internet, and you had the mobile internet, and now we're going through what is known as the edge internet. And somehow it's become synonymous with 5G. So for today's talk, we're not going to make a distinction between 5G and edge, and in fact, we might end up using 5G edge together. But think of this as an opportunity to understand why 5G and edge are important. What is EdgeNet? And we'll close out with a demo of how one could get started, and then follow it up with a set of activities in the days to come to take this forward. With that as the background, let me jump right into the slides. So as Adam put it, the idea is to talk about building the future of apps with EdgeNet. Okay, EdgeNet is something that we are very proud of, and fundamentally it stands for the Edge Internet, and it's the next generation. It's sort of a parallel connected universe that offers the many of the traits of the internet, but at the same time, the edge part makes it a low latency, high bandwidth environment. But how can somebody take advantage of it? Because there are layers and layers of complexity in it. So that's what we're going to talk about. So to start with, I'm going to make an important observation. Many of us have seen this, which is the way we interact with the internet is changing. Okay, so why is this changing? It all comes down to one simple observation. There's a decentralization architecture that is taking place in the internet. And we're going from maybe hundreds of mobile networks to maybe millions of private networks, which can all be connected with each other. And as I mentioned, 5G and edge are crucial in this internet reconfiguration that is taking place. I also mentioned it is complicated. It's got lots of traits. Security is an important consideration. High availability and resiliency is very, very important. And we are in the middle of a pandemic. So the real-time responsiveness, and hopefully we're at the tail end of it, given the vaccinations and and the phenomenal job that the scientific community has been doing, and all nations coming together. But regardless, it has given us a reason to believe and double down on the internet and start to reinvent things in a way where things become much more responsive, and businesses can take advantage of it, and things are smarter and safer. But regardless, when you try to put all these things into a wish list, and the immediate reaction we have is, oh my God, this is complicated. Well, it is, and it's going to be expensive. We're going to challenge that notion that it's going to be expensive and challenge ourselves to come up with what I consider a cost-effective evolutionary disruption. Now, none of this is going to be possible if we don't leverage the power of a network economy. And what we are going to talk about today is how we can create an open and collaborative developer-focused platform, because that is critical to make all of this possible in a compressed timeline, because the moment is here and now. Moving over to the next slide. So I'm just going to step back a little bit to remind ourselves as to how we got here, maybe dipping back into what is now part of history, and some of us were not even part of this. They used to be mainframes, which were all very centralized computing engines. And then we moved to a distributed client server model, which led to layers of interconnections, which led to the internet as we know it today. A lot of interesting protocols were invented along the way, and that led to about 20, 25 years ago, the concept of networked computing, which eventually has become the cloud as we know it today. Along the way, third generation wireless and fourth generation wireless happened, which led to what we know as the mobile internet. Now, I want to pause there before I expand into the edge. The mobile internet as we know it today, because some of us have been part of that revolution, me included, in the context of what we used to do in the early days, the mobile internet and the mobile infrastructure technologies that were being, and the platforms that were being built were intended to provide access to the existing internet and somehow optimize the application to be able to make it work on a mobile device. The edge takes a slightly different view, and that's what we're going to talk about. How can we create an optimal internet independent of the device type? And in particular, it shouldn't be just an access technology for different device types. It should be optimally, it's a set of optimal technologies which allows for connectivity to meet computing. So the edge internet is not a device revolution like the previous two generations. It actually turns out to be an architectural revolution. Now, every time one talks about an architectural revolution, it sounds like a forklift. Well, the beauty of the edge and EdgeNet is it's evolutionary, but it's revolutionary. So how can you create that disruption as an overlay technology and take it forward? So that's what this computing shift talks about. So now you can ask yourself the question, why do we care about the edge? What's so important about it? Or why is this new architectural revolution important? We already talked about the cloud and the hypercloud vendors, and there's a coexistence with what is known as the hyper data center revolution also. And the data center world, which is illustrated in the top part of the slide, is also going through an architectural revolution. What used to be big box, hyperscale data centers is now becoming smaller and miniaturized, but at the same time, it's becoming multi-tenant. Tower companies are getting involved. The concept of micro data centers and metro edge data centers is now part of the parlance of everything that we are witnessing. And It's been a very interesting past, 15 to 18 months, given the changes that have taken place in 5G and so on and so forth. But that's as far as the data center technologies are concerned. That there is an architectural reconfiguration that is taking place at that layer. But at the end of the day, one has to ask ourselves the question, why is it important to us? Why is the edge going to be, what is the meaningful difference it's going to make to us? And that's what's shown in the bottom row. It could be, it does have an impact on things like IoT. IoT or Internet of Things is not limited to small devices which have limited computing. The cameras have become IoT devices. Connected screens have become IoT devices. A lot of artificial intelligence is going into it. So there's real-time data processing that has to take place. Another example I'd like to talk about is we talk about Alexa and Siri and Hey Google and so on and so forth, where many of these things are adopting voice recognition. 10 years ago, these devices, which were processing, did not have enough compute. So I actually went through an experiment myself, about 10 years ago, where the limited amount of compute I had in this voice recognition server in my basement actually ended up being approximate computing environment for a little device that I had, because the device could not do the computing. So on and so forth. There's a lot of use cases that have come up, but the applications that are demanding these kind of architectural changes and these use cases, broadly speaking, we've classified them into two extremes. On the right hand of the screen, you see these edge enhanced apps. What do we mean by that? Well, think of going from standard definition to high definition to 2K video and maybe machine recognition video, which is like 4K and so on and so forth. That is an incremental revolutionary paradigm that happens where you're enhancing existing applications to suit and improve our lifestyles. Okay. On the other hand, the extreme example that I'd like to give around edge native applications is if the IoT device happens to be something like a connected car. Okay. It's not 100% a reality, but many of the technologies that are going into autonomous systems and connected cars are becoming a reality very, very soon. Maybe because of the pandemic also, like warehouses are adopting autonomous systems and so on and so forth. Much of those use cases and applications are impossible without this edge architecture and 5G edge. So I want to use this slide to remind ourselves that this revolution has a basis. These architectural changes that are taking place in the internet is tied to certain use cases and certain applications, and that's what this slide is illustrating. Now, let me dip into the next slide and start to get into not just the technological opportunities that the edge architectures create, but let us also look at the commercial opportunities that get created with this edge architecture. And this slide is intended to illustrate not just the evolution that took place as we went from narrowband wireless systems where voice and SMS to the proposed and the 5G systems that are getting rolled out in many parts of the world, including including the United States. The bottom line is every generation of technology has come with it a certain set of traits, architectures, and use cases that actually creates an economic outcome. There's no doubt in our minds that cellular voice and SMS created a revolution, okay? We went from, especially in the United States, we went from like maybe 50 million telephone lines and PSTN lines at homes to 300 million, right? And when we went to 3G systems, all of a sudden we had email in our pocket. Depending on whose version of the definitions of 3G or 4G you look at, progressively the architectures evolved to meet the higher bandwidth requirements. And every time that happened, a $1 trillion economy was set off. Okay? And it was all incremental. You went from voice and SMS to voice, SMS, and email, and then you went from voice, SMS, email to video, which is what effectively 4G ended up doing. And lots of use cases, not just tied to video, but location-based services also. Maps is a classic example, how corporations like Uber and Lyft have now becoming part of our daily fabric in terms of being able to use such technologies. Without 4G, those things would be impossible. So clearly 2G, 3G, 4G have, even in the limited sense, have created trillions of dollars of economic outcome. Move over to 5G, we have a massive opportunity. This is just a smorgasbord of ideas that people are all pursuing. And so none of this is possible without the edge internet and the edge architectures, okay? Because low latency is a requirement, high bandwidth is a requirement. On top of it, look at the number of verticals. You could focus on just retail and create a $1 trillion outcome. You could just do security management and personalized assistance or healthcare. Each one of them becomes a massive $1 trillion opportunity. Now, if we start building verticalized platforms, adoption curves will be long. Okay, so how do we meet the demand curve with a horizontal platform which is not vertically integrated, but at the same time it's open, and we open it up to a market of developers who can participate in this network economy? Is what this is all about. With EdgeNet, all of this is possible. So this tells you the power of 5G and Edge, and let me move into the next phase of the presentation. So why isn't everyone already building for the edge? This is a very simple question, but it's got a very profound answer, because the shit is too complicated. Okay? So why is it complicated? Well, 5G requires spectrum planning, and I'll go through this rapidly. You got to do network engineering. You got to build infrastructure. You got to do mobility coding. You got to do orchestration and testing, and very many layers. Then you have to deal with compliance. There are regulatory issues. And you say spectrum planning in companies, in countries like the United States and Germany and other parts of Europe, you have the opportunity for mid-band spectrum around something in the US, which we call a CBRS, for example, where you can launch your own 5G network. It's a shared spectrum paradigm. Every time you have a shared spectrum, which is different from Wi-Fi, then there are compliance issues. And then on top of it, developers have to take advantage of it. And then finally, you have to integrate with the edge. This stuff is really complicated. I did mention that the same thing in a previous presentation I made to developer community at Topcoder, but I wanted to somewhat be a little more illustrative in this slide, and so that the journey without having an open horizontal platform that is not vertically integrated is much needed at this point. So that's what we are trying to illustrate on the slide. Moving over to the EdgeNet platform. So how do you simplify this? Well, first of all, Edge is a new architecture. Okay, it's not built out of thin air. You need you have to go, like I mentioned in my in the first slide. We're moving from a network of, say, hundreds of operators to millions of private operators. So you need a global computing and delivery network for this. EdgeNet right now is ready for service in approximately 50 edge locations, but edge is about proximity. You have to be very close. The computing environment and the software workloads have to be very close to the connectivity systems. And so we're expanding to thousands of locations globally. We have over 100 partners who are part of this journey. So this revolution has already started. The EdgeNet platform is already getting deployed. So part of the reason why this particular paradigm is very important, and this particular presentation today is super interesting to us at Alef Edge, is we wanted to be able to invite the Topcoder community to sort of touch and feel the global delivery network, even if we are going to expose it only in a few places, so that they can take an advantage of at least the minimalistic APIs that we are exposing to this community. Now, on top of it, we have created a management services layer where developers can test, secure, deploy, and also monitor the performance of the applications and use cases that they're building on top of it. Now, we're not limiting the programmability that we are bringing into EdgeNet just to the application layer. However, for this particular presentation and the immediate learning challenges and skill builder challenges, we are going to focus on video just to learn to walk before we can completely run. But having said that, it's an end-to-end system that we have put together. So you should, I invite the Topcoder community to start imagining big ticket things that we can start to do about it, so we can all learn as a community here. Moving over to the next layer, none of this is possible if we were going to reinvent the wheel. Okay, we don't want to. So the API economy and the learning curve that the developer community has gone through, and the contributions that the developer community has made into APIs and SDKs, and how a lot of this documentation and the tools and the frameworks that have been built, we are reusing it, but we are repurposing it for the edge. However, from a developer perspective, we want to keep the learning curve to be very, very minimal, and we are inviting people to innovate on top of it. So we have a fully documented set of APIs and a few SDKs for the developer ecosystem in order to make it with quick start guides and things like that. And my colleague Ryan will probably walk you through it when we go through the demo. On top of it, in order to make this a self-fulfilling exercise, and the flywheel should spin on its own, we are creating a marketplace for the ecosystem to connect buyers and sellers here. Okay, what do we mean by that? If somebody has an innovative idea, and we have a host of enterprises who are actually looking into it, we'd like to be able to connect the dots here. So we are in the process of setting up a marketplace for the ecosystem to be able to list their apps, and so that there could be a discovery engine by which enterprises can actually take advantage of it, and they can innovate on top of the apps to be able to customize it for their use, so that this becomes a very interesting exercise, not just an innovation engine, but actually a productivity engine. So in the end, what EdgeNet is, it's a fabric. It's an open, programmable, pluggable set of tools that we've put together, and it is purpose-built for the edge or the edge internet. But more importantly, since the edge conceptually, and more importantly, the details also are an integral part of 5G, and there's no 5G without edge, because for the first time, wireless standards and cellular standards, when they went from 4G to 5G, the radio technology did not change. It was just an architectural change. So fundamentally, what has happened is we saw an opportunity to be able to catalyze the community to take it to the next level, so that the apps and services can be accelerated on top of this platform. Moving over to the next slide. Well, if you were to build an edge application in minutes, now that I've told you about the marketplace and how the layers of APIs and SDKs come together, and how there is a delivery network underneath all of that, well, anything that a developer wants to build should not be too complicated. Here, this is just a simple example. So we don't want to reinvent the wheel here. There is one little detail I want to point out, which is the word location on the top, okay, right after curl. That is, developers will have the opportunity, the community will have an opportunity to pick and choose the location where they want their apps to be experienced. Okay, and if it needs to be experienced in one or a few or many or all, it should all be instantiated through APIs. Fortunately for us, those technologies are readily available, but it required a repurposing to be able to make it work in the context of the edge. So for people who are familiar with building cloud apps, it should be easy to get started, but at the same time, it's going to be a super interesting exercise as we go through some of these learning challenges and skill builder challenges to be able to see and experience the power of the edge. Moving over to the next slide. Let's talk about EdgeNet in a little more detail. It gets down to we have EdgeNet is it's deployed at scale. And not only that, application developers can deploy their 5G Edge services in minutes. We are offering it API as a service. It is neutral. So what do I mean by neutral host? Basically, it shouldn't matter which data center this is instantiated. So it should be neutral to whether it is a micro data center or a metro edge data center. It should be neutral to whether it's which 4G or 5G flavor, or it shouldn't be dependent on a specific carrier's operators connectivity network. So that's what we mean by neutral. We will be releasing more documents to just cover some of these aspects. And then moving on, there's multi-tenancy. It's a shared economy marketplace that we've already covered. And just to re-emphasize, it's ready for service in about 58 sites and growing to about thousands. So moving on, this is just a pictorial view just to illustrate the fact that it's a parallel internet universe of connected private edge area networks that we have built. It's a very simplistic view, but it should create a set of ideas, and hopefully we can all combine our forces and start innovate on top of it. Moving over to the next slide. So let's say all of this is possible because it is true, and the community gets involved. What is in it for the community? Okay, and how can we collaborate? How can the creators of EdgeNet collaborate with the next generation of creators? Okay, and the idea is we focused on breaking it down into 4 buckets of APIs. We call it as the 5G Edge API. It's really 4 families, and I'll talk about it in the next slide. But the idea, what do these APIs do? Well, 5G should be as easy as Wi-Fi, and we shouldn't have to wait for 5G. What do I mean by that? Maybe Wi-Fi should be as powerful as 5G. How about that? Okay, so we need to be able to think disruptively out of the box, and that led us to a set of connectivity and compute APIs and things like that. It should provide business critical functionality. I talked about the opportunity in terms of the number of applications that one could take a build on top of 5G. It should also take advantage of this tectonic shift that's taking place, which is the reconfiguration of the internet, both in terms of the architecture and the value chain. And more importantly, it has to be open and programmable. If these 4 properties are met, which they have, which we made sure have happened, it creates superpowers, total superpowers for any creator to be able to launch any 5G Edge service in minutes. Now, I want to emphasize the word superpower, and I want to start using the word app creators rather than just developers. And the reason why that's an important distinction in my mind is once they have superpowers and the community has superpowers, the creativity gene can be absolutely unleashed. Okay, so we're looking forward to interacting with the top coder community on this front. Next slide. I just want to dig in a little deeper, and I just have one or two more slides, and I'll hand it off to Ryan. So what are these four families of APIs? The first one is you need to be able, wherever you are, you need to be able to connect and take advantage of all these functions and software abstractions that go with 5G and Edge and connect to it using an API so that you don't have to make millions of dollars of investments or spend 18 months building it. Okay, that's the connectivity API. And then you need a set of APIs related to the apps that you want to build on top of it. And we built a few. We invite the community to collaborate with us to add more application APIs on top of it. And we've created a little template so that if it's an application which can be broken down into multiple microservices, let's say, the template will actually teach you what is it that you want to actualize in the edge? What is it that you can leave in the cloud, etc. The important point that I'm trying to make here is it's not cloud versus edge. It's actually edge and cloud coexisting and complementing each other here. There is a quick tendency for all of us to say edge is the new cloud. Well, it is, but it is going to coexist with the hypercloud, and it's going to make the hypercloud even more better and more unique, and you can extract more value out of it. It's not either or. I think that's the fascinating aspect. So in order to do that, you need compute APIs. And on top of it, I talked about security, optimization at the wide area network level, an open set of APIs for networking, etc. That's what we call as the 5G Edge value-added API. So broadly speaking, much of this information is actually captured in our portal, and we are going to continue to add to it, and we want feedback from the community to be able to improve upon what is available, and we're super excited that we have this opportunity to talk to the top coder community. Moving over to the next slide. So let's say all of this is possible, then what can an enterprise do? Just plug into EdgeNet. Launch your own 5G Edge service in minutes. That's it. So if we can all collaborate, that's the superpower we are going to create to the IT managers and the CIOs and enterprise decision makers. They can just launch their own 5G Edge services in minutes. They don't have to wait for operators to deploy 5G. They don't have to deploy their own 5G networks. They could even start with Wi-Fi for all I care. And there's a lot of great things that you can do by just plugging into EdgeNet. And we are looking forward to leveraging the collective power of the community to be able to expand on the possibility. This talks about the art of the possibility. We also have evidence and proof on the science of the possibility because we have a few anchor tenants who are already taking advantage of it in every one of these cases, including the lab where I'm sitting down, and we have connected it to the closest data center here in Midtown Manhattan. Everything can happen in a matter of minutes. Moving over to the next slide. I want to walk you through this community to sort of, okay, a lot of what I said is abstract. Let's look at the power of 5G and Edge in a concrete setting. But before I go to the video, I want to walk you through the scenario in about 30 seconds. The scenario is you have a set of connected screens, and these connected screens are used for advertising. And usually advertising requires targeting, some privacy amplification where applicable, and relevance from from the individual who's watching the advertisement. Okay, let's assume it's high definition video advertising. And if it's going to happen in a connected screen, there is no keyboard, there is no data tied to that particular connected screen because the people who are moving in front of that connected screen keeps changing. For all practical purposes, there's little or no computing in it. You know, these connected screens used to be called televisions 15 years ago in our living rooms, right? But they're not big and bulky. They're big, but they're not bulky. The fundamental opportunity that Edge brings here is, can we create a proximate computing environment where we can actually start to show targeted advertising, and the start times for these advertising actually is like super compressed. We have created a real-time bidding environment on top of it, and we use a combination of computer vision, uh, artificial intelligence, and combined with these next generation of real-time bidding technologies to be able to make all of this happen in a real-time setting using this architecture actually in a 4G network in a town called Foxborough, Massachusetts. With that as the background, let me walk you through the video itself, and you'll see what is going on. So there were two sets of use cases that were demonstrated. One is an edge enhanced use case, which was in the front end of the video, which was about high definition video and start times. There were a couple of other use cases also that we had addressed: virtual reality, augmented reality, and then but which were not in this video. And then the fourth one that you saw, which was the connected screen, where in the first case you had a picture of a professional woman in front of the camera, and then immediately the ad that shows up is relevant to that person. It was all through a bidding environment. And then the second example was about a little kid in front of the camera, which reminds somebody of what is happening, a parent of what is happening in school. And that was the ad that won the bid, and it started playing it on that connected screens. There are many such use cases that come out of it. In fact, my colleague Ryan will potentially point you out on some of the use cases that we were able to get exposed to, and it's actually captured in one of the documents. And so over to you, Ryan, for the demo. I hope you're all as excited as I am with respect to what you're going to see and what the art of the possible is here.
Thank you very much, Ganesh. As was spoken about at the beginning of the presentation, we wanted to show you guys why the edge was important, what is EdgeNet, and how exactly to take advantage of what we have here for you. I will be reviewing two different entities right now. The first shown here is the public available developer landing page. Over here on the top right, you will see home, APIs, forum, sign up, and sign in as a horizontal navigation. The sign up and sign in will be extremely relevant as we get more into the portal. When we created this landing page, we wanted to mimic the flow that a developer would take when interacting with EdgeNet. So the first thing you're going to want to do, obviously, is get started. All the way over to the right hand here, you will see there is a user guide. This user guide will provide detailed workflows into how to create an account, how to create a subscription, how to configure a subscription, how to leverage the APIs that are being exposed to the developer community, and then how to test. The other two boxes in this row are both quick start guides. The first on the left is for the video enablement product, and the middle is for the video notification product. The main difference between these two products is that the video enablement is initiated by a pull from the end user, while the video notification product is a push down to the end user. Following that section, we have some reference documents available to you. Starting all the way on the right again, if you are just curious to learn more about EdgeNet, if you want to learn more about our Edge APIs, those are two documents. And as Ganesh pointed out, there is a use case document for you. In case you want some help getting started with some creativity on how exactly you might be able to leverage the Edge to bring a use case to market, feel free to go to this page and read the ebook. Additionally present in this section is the APIs and SDK documents. The Swagger documents will take you through all of the APIs for both the video enablement and video notification products. Additionally, you will be able to interact with that UI directly in order to run some of the APIs that we are exposing to you. If you would like to use the APIs from your own internal command line, we also have some curl scripts provided to you right there. The middle box in this row is more information about the EdgeNet developer portal. This will take you through service usage docs, which are in-depth guides on how to leverage the APIs we are exposing. And understanding EdgeNet environment will help give you greater insight into the different environments we are providing for you to leverage. Following that, the next section is managing your applications and services. The first box here on the left is the analytics usage documents. There's data visualization present for both the video enablement and video notification products within the portal. There's a document relevant to each of the products that will take you through the different metrics we are capturing for the API analytics and the content analytics. As you are leveraging our APIs to build your next generation applications and services, we understand that there might be hiccups, there might be problems, and we want to make sure that we can do as much as we can, to help you be successful. Here, there are some debugging usage docs, which will help give you insight into the different opportunities we provide to add assistance. As Ganesh talked about, we are going to open up a marketplace where we are going to host the applications and services that you are developing in order for someone to go and purchase them. Once they are created, those applications will then have to be hosted on the Alef EdgeNet network. Here is a document that goes into greater detail about Edge 3, which is the product we offer to host those applications and services. The final portion of the developer landing page is really for the community. You'll see there's a forum here. We have integrated discourse and put together a few threads in which we encourage you to go and list any questions you have. If you have any comments or just general feelings about one of the topic threads, please do not hesitate to go there and share your thoughts with us. We would love to hear them. In the middle box, there's an events page. such as this great event that is hosted today by Top Coder. We hope to have future skill building challenges, hackathons, and additional webinars. In case you want any insight onto potential events that might be upcoming, feel free to go to this page. If you do not want to go to the page, however, you can sign up for the developer newsletter. Here you will get routine updates from us about our products, software updates, or events that might be upcoming. We would absolutely love to have you, and we would love to stay in touch, so please do not hesitate in signing up for that. Following that, I will now bring you to the portal to show you how to create an account and how to create a subscription. If you're already on the developer landing page, you can just click the sign up in the top right. It will take you to the first step in the sign up process. To save some time, I've already filled out the sheet, but it is important to note that you will be required to fill out all fields denoted by an asterisk. And while it is not mandatory, we highly recommend you upload a profile picture because we want you to feel like this space is truly your own. Once that is finished, you can click next in the bottom right, and you will be brought to the confirm details page. This is a quick check just to make sure that all information that you had provided in this process was accurate. After completing that, please click the next in the bottom right. Here, you will be brought to this page where you have to view and read both the Alef acceptable usage policy and the Alef privacy policy. Upon reading to those documents, you will agree, and you will complete the reCAPTCHA activity. Once completed, you'll see create account in the bottom right is illuminated, and you will click that. And you have finished the portion that is in the portal. However, you are not completely done as designated in this pop-up. You'll see you get a confirmed developer account email. Please confirm the email address you have entered by clicking the hyperlink or pasting and the following URL into your browser. After that, you will be brought to a screen to set your password. If there is any confusion about what is required, hover over the I and it will show you the exact details, but it must contain one uppercase, one lowercase, one number, and one symbol. Once those password is entered and confirmed, you'll see that in real time, your password strength is updated and will give you a check for having everything. After that, we pose a short question about what do you want to build. We want to learn more about you. This is an opportunity for you to quickly share things that you would like to build. After that, you have successfully created your account. You will see an additional email in your inbox for the email address that you provided that welcomes you to EdgeNet Developer Portal. It is important to note that your API key is also included in this email. The API key is a parameter for all of the APIs that we are exposing to you guys, and as such, you will need this later. It is also important to note, please do not share this information with anyone. It is sensitive information and it may have billing implications later on, so please keep that private. The final portion of the demo will be going through how to create a service.
Try again.
Seems like I'm a robot today. Oh. There we go. My apologies.
There you go.
My apologies on that. We do not have much time, and I want to make sure there is time for Q&A, so I will go through this process rather rapidly. But in order to create a service, this is the first screen you will see when you are logged on. Since I have nothing created, it will be entirely blank. You'll see in the My Services, it is instructing you to click the plus sign above to order a new service. From there, a product dropdown will appear. You can select either the Alef video enablement or the Alef in-app video notification product. Once selected, you will be brought directly to the pricing page relevant to that product. Anecdotally, if you would like to learn more about the product, you can go here and go to the overview page. The first step, though, once you are on the pricing page, is you have to select a location that you would like to deploy the service. Currently, there are 5 locations present. These are the 5 locations in which we are planning on opening developer sandbox containers for you to test the playing of Edge content. Since I am located in New York and that is the closest one to me, I'm going to select it. Once the location is selected, you'll see the purchase button is illuminated. Once you click it, you'll be brought to this service details page. The product, location, and plan information is pre-populated for you. It is important to note you will have to provide a unique service name or you will not be allowed to create the subscription. As this is your first subscription and my first subscription on this account, there's nothing wrong with the service name that is provided to you. After you click confirm on that service details page, you are brought to the configure page. However, you have now successfully created your subscription. As a check, you can go to the home page and you will now see in my services, I have 1 subscription. If there are any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. And if we are unable to get them today and you have portal or landing page specific questions, there is an email that is provided on the login page of the developer portal. Please do not hesitate in leveraging that. I will be happy to answer all of your questions. And if it is not answered by me, it will be handled by one of our very capable employees here.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Ryan. That was very instructive. And hopefully it gives a flavor for how we can get engaged with the community, the top coder community in particular. Over to you, Adam.
Yeah, hey, thank you, Ganesh, and thank you, Ryan. You know, obviously that video I saw was very inspiring just for the understanding how it all works. And you know, context for everyone in the community here. We're very excited about, you know, starting the initial learning challenge, and we're going to keep things simple. The learning challenge will be going out this week. We're also going to have skill builder challenges. Okay, so again, the skill builder focused on easy, medium, and hard. And you know, EdgeNet is going to be here for many months, where we also are going to be ramping up into Top Coder Open. Okay, so I want to give everyone kind of the mindset of like, this is the ground floor, your ability to jump in, learn. You have Ganesh, you have Ryan, you have VJ, you have the entire Alef team here that's excited for you to go learn about, you know, their technologies and of course build. So we have a lot of different things coming, hackathon, ideation challenges. So you know, the more questions you have, the more things that we can all figure out. And I think it's going to be very exciting over the, you know, the next 9 to 12 months on all the cool things that we're going to be able to do together. So just wanted to give
Adam,
everyone kind of the context for that.
I just want to add, it's not just me, Ryan, VJ, and all of us at Alef Edge. It includes you, Jesse, and Rajdeep, and everybody else who's been part of this journey. So feel free to interact with us, and we look forward to interacting with all of you.
Yes, yes. Okay, so I think you know, we have a few minutes here for some questions. You know, I think there were some technical questions that came in while you were talking.
Okay.
So there's a question around the hardware. So the first question is EdgeNet technology built on top of application layer of OSI model? Can you talk more about the hardware behind it?
So the very good question. We wanted to make it work on both CPUs and GPUs. That's the starting point. We've chosen to optimize it on Intel configuration to start with. And so that's what's been rolled out. But from a developer perspective, that's been completely abstracted out. We have a combination of virtualization and containerization on top of it. The question on the OSI stack is a little tricky, but I'll try to address it quickly. The mobile internet stack, as standardized in 3GPP, involves mobility. For example, that's why it's called mobile internet. The the fundamental underpinnings of these standards is codified in what is known as 3GPP. So it's very complex. So yes, it is consistent with the OSI model by default because it's standards compliant. But what we have done is to abstract all of that and various features that were built, including secure mobile breakout, how do you intersect, how do you insert edge technologies even for 4G or even Wi-Fi? All that has been abstracted out. So it's 100% compliant, not much of learning to do, but it's a great question. We're happy to expand on some of that in some of our white papers, which are available even on our website right now.
Okay. Another question is, and this is, I think, topical for our developer community here, is what skills are necessary to engage, to fully engage on the EdgeNet technologies and challenges?
A very good question again. We wanted to, like you said, Adam, we wanted to learn to walk and start at the ground floor rather before we start running. So the ground floor engagement does not require any new skills. If you've already had an interest and aptitude as well as familiarity with building cloud apps, then you should be ready to start with. But it's never going to be the same as we start to layer more interesting layers of innovation on top of EdgeNet. There will be new technologies that we will be introducing into this. So the layers of programmabilities are forthcoming. Right now, we are taking a measured approach of exposing. But to get started, there are quick start guides, there are tutorials. We'll be having some more webinars on this. So we don't want this to make we don't want to make this a heavy lift to start with. So at the ground floor, no new skills are needed, just an interest, excitement, aptitude for building cloud apps. But really, I want to leverage the imagination of this community.
Okay. Okay. Let's see here. What is okay, technical question. What is the range of one relay point to achieve ultra low latency? Will the transport layer of the OSI model be redesigned and reconstructed?
That's a very good question. This is a vision question, and part of the reason why the 50 is also an important aspect. There's a 50 plus EdgeNet locations that we talked about. The vision and strategy of EdgeNet is to be able to keep it within 10 milliseconds and if possible within 5 milliseconds so that these ultra low latency and ultra high bandwidth applications can actually leverage EdgeNet. Right now, it is not 5 to 10 milliseconds, but from a coverage and capacity perspective, think about it as how we are rolling out EdgeNet is similar to how I used to do these rollouts even in 3G and 4G. First, you get some form of ubiquitous coverage, then you layer on top of it capacity. So the 50 locations we have chosen are based on proximity to large corporations, Fortune 1000 corporations, and that's how we've been building it out in the United States, as well as a few opportunistic deployments in India and Brazil, as well as in the United States. So right now, it is not going to be ubiquitously available, but by the end of this year, we hope to ramp it up to a few hundred locations and expanding out to a few thousand by the end of next year. Having said all of that, it will have no impact on the OSI models as such. We've abstracted that piece out. Certain applications may not be as high def as we want them to be, but that's like saying if I have a 4G phone, sometimes I end up having 2G bandwidth. So we will, EdgeNet and 5G will go through that learning curve as we get to that kind of capacities and coverage. So stay tuned. We will be announcing it, but no special skills are needed again to be able to customize it.
Okay, great. Thank you. It looks like we've been having questions that VJ has been answering. So VJ, thank you for jumping in and answering some of the questions as we go. There was a question. Ganesh, as you know, our community is made up of designers, developers, algorithms, testers. We do have someone from a tester question. So I don't know much about EdgeNet, but planning to learn more. Can you tell me what are the advantages of EdgeNet for testers? Can it help them in some way?
Very good question again. At the moment, like I said, we want to keep it simple. So the performance testing is an important aspect of how we are in a position to optimize some of these applications. So let me take a concrete example, but I'll keep it short. When you're building an application backend, there's probably going to be 50 microservices. There are choices that are going to be made on which microservices have to be responsive and which can be part of what I call as a control plane, something that requires authentication. You don't want to move the authentication databases all over the place. For example, that is something we would like to continue to host in the cloud. So the application design will go hand in hand with the testing. So performance testing and being able to certify that something is 5G Edge ready, and we will be providing some guidelines, for example, for specific applications. Generically speaking, we can start to talk about here are some of the microservices which need to be, we recommend being hosted at the edge. Here are some things that microservices that can be hosted in a cloud. And if we need to do something in between, we have certain APIs to do cross connects also. So it's a learning curve, but performance testing is one area. What I mean is latency and overall application performance testing is one area where I think we are expecting a lot of work to go into. And so stay tuned. We would like to recommend the person who asked this question to actually reach out to Ryan or Vijay or somebody else so that we can actually start to nurture and see how that can be part of a marketplace offering also.
Awesome. Great, thank you. Ganesh, are you okay for a few more questions?
Absolutely.
Okay. So a business question. So where do you feel Alef Edge stands among other companies in the 5G space and edge computing?
Oh, very simple. I want to leverage the power of a network economy. That's been the vision and strategy of this company. And it's not new. If you go back to even the messaging days, there were initially vertically integrated stacks that came out, and then they became open messaging stacks. And corporations have been built, multi-billion-dollar corporations have been built based on messaging. Okay, similarly for voice. Once you make messaging and voice programmable, tens of billions of dollars of value were created, and a whole network economy was created, which fortunately many of us have been witness to. And I don't want to mention in names of corporations for obvious reasons, right? But having said that, the main difference here in terms of learning from those paradigms is to make everything programmable and open without making vertically integrated. That's the power of the network economy. That's the power of a community like Topcoder, so that collective imagination leads to a lot of economic value. That's the approach we are taking. So open horizontal platforms that make it programmable across multiple dimensions is how we are starting this revolution. So we are distinct in that, but we look forward to a collaborative ecosystem here.
Okay. Another a technical question. So what structures are in place in case of cloud downtime coverage for the 5G edge device connectivity? Any plans to offline backup?
Wonderful question. It's not just a plan. We have a feature. This is a very interesting question. Things that are downtime are often looked at as a bug, okay? Since I'm talking to a developer community, I want to talk about how we can leverage this so-called bug in terms of downtime, fiber cuts, etc., and turn it into a feature, okay? Mm-hmm. So the edge can be not just a surrogate computing environment, it could be a backup computing environment also. Now, how can this be made possible as a product through APIs so that there's a production environment to be able to leverage and gain the diversity, because edge is in the initial stage is going to be potentially more expensive than cloud from a computing perspective. I don't think it is the case yet. But at the same time, as the scarcity and the demand, supply-demand curve starts to play out, you want to be able to do this in a careful manner so that application performance works across the whole internet here. So the answer is yes, we are building some features. It is not ready in the form of APIs to make it programmable. So stay tuned. It is forthcoming.
Okay. Okay, and since we're over, this is a last question. This one, I think, this is the type of question we typically get as we're an open community. Is the EdgeNet team planning to open source the SDKs or create some starter template projects in GitHub, for instance? So these are the types of things that obviously our community loves to hear about and know about, and where they can contribute.
So the answer is right now, open APIs is what we have embarked on. Nothing is off the table, especially in the context of a community environment where we want to be able to foster an ecosystem. There are many strategies in place, which I'm not at liberty to expand right now. Let's just get started. As the demand curve shapes itself, happy to expand on some of those things. The answer is yes. Strategies are in place. It's a question of timing in terms of what gets opened in terms of GitHub and or open source and what are the other outlets. Now, having said that, we are working with a number of other partners who have taken a very open approach, okay, or open source approach. Those are also going to be exposed as part of EdgeNet. So it's not a 0-1 situation. It could be lots of real numbers between 0 and 1. So incrementally, he'll build towards a community environment where this becomes a process. Having said that, if there is somebody in the community who wants to contribute to an open source module that can be rolled into the platform, happy to take that forward. That program it's in infancy right now. It is working through we are working through the kinks where we are working with select direct partners. We're not in a position to open it up to a community where people can start contributing into the EdgeNet platform itself, but stay tuned on that. Right now, we don't have an open source environment, but we do have an open API environment to be able to take this forward.
Okay,
but
well, thank you.
All in good time.
Thank you. And, I think, Ganesh, as you and I were talking, we had 11 other questions over in the Q&A. So a lot of excitement. So I love the energy we're seeing today from everyone, and definitely appreciate your time, your sharing what's going on. Again, I'd like to set the idea for the community here, the opportunity of us getting started with the learning challenges. We'll be doing t-shirts as part of that. We have the skill builders that I'm very excited about. And then we'll be getting into, hackathons and actually, going and building some cool things. So a great opportunity to be on the edge, on the cutting edge right now. So
exactly.
Ganesh, I think we will take this video and we'll also take all the questions. We'll create an FAQ out of this, and we'll also post it on the site. So it'll be great views after the fact. So.
All right.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Looking forward to it. And thank you very much, Adam, and the entire Topcoder team and the Topcoder community. Looking forward to next steps. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.